First contact. The day Earth changed forever began like any other. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force sat in her office, reviewing reports and sipping her third cup of coffee. At 32, she was one of the youngest to achieve her rank, known for her quick thinking and unorthodox strategies. Little did she know, those skills would soon be put to the ultimate test. A piercing alarm shattered the morning calm. Sarah's comlink buzzed urgently. "Captain Chen, report to the command center immediately." This is not a drill. Heart racing, Sarah sprinted through the corridors of the UEDF headquarters. As she burst into the command center, a scene of controlled chaos greeted her. Officers hurried between stations, shouting orders and relaying information. General Marcus Hawthorne, a grizzled veteran with steel-gray hair, stood at the center of the storm. His face was grim as he addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, at 800 hours, our deep space monitoring stations detected multiple objects entering our solar system at impossible speeds. They've bypassed our outer defenses and will reach Earth orbit in less than an hour." A hush fell over the room. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. First contact. After centuries of wondering, humanity was about to meet its cosmic neighbors, and it didn't look like they were coming for a friendly cup of sugar. "Captain Chen," the general's voice cut through her thoughts. "I want you to coordinate our orbital defense platforms. If these visitors have hostile intentions, you're our first line of defense." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through scenarios and strategies. As she moved to her station, the general's next words froze her in place. "One more thing. The objects. They're not ships as we understand them. They appear to be living creatures. Massive. Like nothing we've ever seen." The next hour was a blur of activity. Sarah directed the repositioning of defense satellites, coordinated with ground-based weapon systems, and helped craft emergency evacuation plans for major cities. All the while, the strange visitors drew closer. As the creatures entered Earth's orbit, the first visual feeds came through. Gasps echoed across the command center. On the main screen, Sarah saw what looked like a school of colossal, translucent fish, each the size of a small country. They glided through space with impossible grace, their bodies shimmering with patterns of light that seemed to pulse with intelligence. "My God," someone whispered. "They're beautiful." Before anyone could respond, the creatures began to descend. Panic erupted in cities worldwide as the massive beings entered the atmosphere, their presence impossible to hide or explain away. "Weapons hot," General Hawthorne ordered, his voice tight. "Captain Chen, on my mark." "Wait," Sarah interrupted, her eyes fixed on the main screen. "Look at their movement patterns. They're avoiding population centers. If they wanted to attack, why not just crash into our cities?" The general hesitated, and in that moment, something extraordinary happened. One of the creatures stopped directly above the UEDF headquarters. A beam of shimmering light extended from its body, touching down in the courtyard outside. "They're making contact," Sarah breathed. Against all protocols and the shouted objections of her superiors, Sarah found herself moving. She ran through the corridors, down flights of stairs, driven by an instinct she couldn't explain. As she burst out into the courtyard, she came face to face with humanity's first alien visitor. The being that stood before her was nothing like the massive creature above. It was humanoid, standing about 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors like the surface of a soap bubble. Its eyes were large and multifaceted, reflecting Sarah's awestruck expression back at her. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Then, to Sarah's amazement, the alien spoke. Its voice was melodic, with an almost musical quality that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate directly in her mind. "Greetings, warriors of Earth," it said. "We come seeking alliance, for a storm approaches that threatens us all." Sarah's training kicked in, and she straightened her posture. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force." What storm do you mean?" The alien's expression shifted, and Sarah somehow knew it was the equivalent of a grim smile. A race of conquerors, consumed by hunger for resources and new territories. They have laid waste to countless worlds, and now they turn their gaze to this sector of the galaxy. Sarah's mind reeled at the implications. And you've come to warn us, to help us prepare. The alien nodded. We are the Luminae. We have traveled far, searching for allies with the potential to turn the tide. Your world, isolated as it is, has developed unique technologies and strategies. Together, we believe we can stand against the coming darkness. As if on cue, alarms blared from the UEDF headquarters. Sarah's comlink crackled to life with General Hawthorne's voice. Chen, we're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Multiple objects, larger than anything we've ever seen. They're not Luminae ships. The aliens' multifaceted eyes seem to darken. They have followed us. The Vorax comes sooner than we anticipated. Sarah looked up at the shimmering beings in the sky, then back at the alien ambassador. In that moment, she knew that everything, the fate of Earth, of humanity, perhaps of the galaxy itself, hinged on what happened next. She took a deep breath and extended her hand to the alien. Then we don't have much time. Let's show these Vorax what happens when they pick a fight with Earth and her allies. As the alien clasped her hand, Sarah felt a surge of determination. Humanity had just been thrust onto a galactic stage, facing threats beyond imagination. But if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was beating the odds. The Terran warrior had awakened, and the stars themselves would bear witness to humanity's resolve. Alliance forged. The days following first contact were a whirlwind of activity. Captain Sarah Chen found herself at the center of a storm, bridging the gap between humanity and their new alien allies, the Luminae. As Earth's governments scrambled to respond to the cosmic shift in reality, Sarah worked tirelessly to facilitate understanding and cooperation. The Luminae ambassador, who had introduced himself as Zarin, proved to be an invaluable partner. His patience and willingness to explain the intricacies of galactic politics helped ease the transition for Earth's leaders. Your world is young in cosmic terms, Zarin explained during one of their many briefings. But your species has a unique adaptability that we believe will be crucial in the coming conflict. Sarah nodded, her mind racing with the implications. The Vorax, you mentioned they've conquered many worlds. What makes them so formidable? Zarin's iridescent skin rippled, a sign Sarah had come to recognize as distress. They are a collective consciousness, driven by an insatiable hunger for resources and new experiences. Each world they conquer is absorbed into their hive mind, adding to their knowledge and power. The enormity of the threat made Sarah's head spin. How could Earth, only just learning of its place in a vast galactic community, hope to stand against such an enemy? As if reading her thoughts, Zarin placed a hand on her shoulder. The touch sent a tingling sensation through her body, like a mild electric current. Do not despair, Sarah Chen. It is precisely your world's isolation that gives us hope. The Vorax have never encountered anything like human ingenuity and individual spirit. These could be the key to their downfall. Over the next few weeks, a tentative alliance began to form. The Luminae shared some of their advanced technology, while Earth's scientists worked around the clock to integrate it with human systems. Sarah found herself in awe of the leaps in progress happening before her eyes. One morning, as she oversaw the installation of the Luminae energy matrix into a human fighter jet, Sarah received an urgent summons from General Hawthorne. She rushed to the command center, her heart pounding with anticipation. The general's face was grim as she entered. Captain Chen, we've just received word from our new friends. The Vorax fleet has entered the solar system. They'll reach Earth in less than 72 hours. Sarah felt her blood run cold. But we're not ready. The integrated defense systems are still in testing, and our pilots haven't had nearly enough time to train with the new tech. Hawthorne nodded, his expression hardening. Then we'll have to accelerate our plans. I'm promoting you to Major, effective immediately. You'll be leading our first joint human Lumine squadron. The weight of responsibility settled on Sarah's shoulders like a physical force. She straightened her back, meeting the general's eyes. I won't let you down, sir. The next 2 days were a blur of preparations. Sarah worked with both human pilots and Lumine operators, forging them into a cohesive unit. The differences between the species were stark, but she was amazed at how quickly they learned to complement each other's strengths. During a rare moment of quiet, Sarah found herself standing on the observation deck of the newly christened Earth Defense Station. The massive structure hung in low Earth orbit, a testament to what could be achieved when humanity and the Lumine worked together. The Galactic Stage. The vastness of space erupted into chaos as the joint human Lumine fleet engaged the Vorax Armada. Major Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the comm, steady despite the maelstrom of battle around her. Echo Squadron, form up on me. Lumine cruisers, target those carrier ships. We need to cut off their fighter support. Her hybrid fighter, a seamless blend of Earth and Lumine technology, danced through the void. Energy beams lanced out from Vorax ships, met by the iridescent shields of the Lumine vessels. Human missiles, enhanced with alien tech, found their marks with uncanny precision. As Sarah led her squadron on a daring attack run, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come in such a short time. Just months ago, humanity had been alone in the universe. Now, they were fighting alongside alien allies to defend not just Earth, but the entire sector. The battle raged for hours, a desperate struggle against overwhelming odds. The Vorax ships seemed endless, pouring out of hyperspace in waves. But slowly, incrementally, the tide began to turn. Major Chen. Zarin's melodic voice rang through the comm. We've detected a fluctuation in the Vorax flagship's energy signature. If we can take it out, their entire fleet will be thrown into disarray. Sarah's mind raced, formulating a plan. Understood. Echo Squadron on me. We're going to open a path for the Lumine cruisers. What followed was a maneuver that would be studied in military academies for generations to come. Human fighters, more agile than their alien counterparts, wove a complex dance through the Vorax defenses. They drew fire, created openings, and executed split-second decisions that no hive mind could anticipate. In the end, it was a joint effort that struck the killing blow. A volley of Lumine energy weapons, guided by human targeting systems, breached the Vorax flagship's defenses. The massive ship erupted in a silent explosion, shockwaves rippling through space. As predicted, the loss of their central consciousness threw the remaining Vorax into confusion. The tide of battle shifted decisively, and within hours it was over. The Vorax fleet retreated, jumping to hyperspace in a hasty withdrawal. The cheers that erupted across the human Lumine fleet were deafening. Sarah let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for days. They had done it. Earth was safe. But as the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah realized this was just the beginning. In the weeks that followed, Earth found itself thrust onto the galactic stage. News of the victory over the Vorax spread quickly, and suddenly, humanity was the focus of attention from civilizations across the galaxy. Sarah, as one of the heroes of the battle, found herself playing a new role: diplomat. She stood beside Zarin in meetings with representatives from dozens of alien races, each curious about the species that had helped turn the tide against the dreaded Vorax. The humans have proven themselves to be invaluable allies, Zarin announced to a gathering of galactic leaders. Their creativity, their adaptability, their sheer determination, these are qualities that will be crucial in the ongoing fight against the Vorax threat. Not all reactions were positive, however. Some older, more established species viewed humanity with suspicion or even fear. How could such a young race have achieved so much so quickly? During one particularly tense meeting, an ambassador from a silicon-based species called the Quirrell voiced their concerns. The humans are unpredictable, volatile. How can we trust them with advanced galactic technology? Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. With all due respect, Ambassador, It's precisely our unpredictability that makes us valuable allies. The Voraks operate on logic, on predictable patterns. We don't. That's why we were able to surprise them. And that's why we'll continue to be a threat to their expansion." Her words seemed to strike a chord, and gradually, more and more species began to see the potential in an alliance with Earth. As humanity's influence grew, so did the scope of their ambitions. With the help of Luminae technology, the first human faster-than-light ship was constructed. Sarah watched with pride as the HSS Horizon prepared for its maiden voyage. "I never thought I'd see anything like this," she murmured to Zarin as they stood in the observation lounge, watching the sleek ship prepare for launch. The Luminae nodded, his iridescent skin shimmering with what Sarah had come to recognize as excitement. "Your people have come so far in such a short time. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility." Sarah nodded soberly. She was acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. Humanity was stepping onto a much larger stage, with higher stakes than they'd ever faced before. As if to underscore that point, an urgent message came through on her comm device. General Hawthorne's face appeared, his expression grim. "Major Chen, we've just received word from our long-range scouts. The Voraks weren't defeated, merely delayed. They're regrouping, and intelligence suggests they're planning something big. We need you back at HQ immediately." Sarah's heart sank, but she felt a familiar determination rising within her. She turned to Zarin, seeing her own resolve mirrored in his alien features. "Looks like our work isn't done yet," she said. Zarin's multifaceted eyes seemed to glimmer with a mix of concern and anticipation. "Indeed not. But remember, Sarah Chen, you do not face this alone. Earth has proven itself a worthy ally, and the galaxy stands with you." As they hurried to the transport that would take them back to Earth, Sarah's mind was already racing with possibilities. The Voraks were coming back, stronger than ever. But this time, humanity would be ready. They had tasted victory, glimpsed their potential on the galactic stage. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Sarah knew one thing for certain. Humanity's spirit, its endless capacity for growth and adaptation, would not be easily extinguished. The Terran warrior had awakened, and the Voraks were about to learn that picking a fight with Earth was the biggest mistake they'd ever made. The next chapter of the war was about to begin, and with it, a new era for humanity among the stars. Human ingenuity unleashed. The mood in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters was tense. Major Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, her eyes fixed on the ominous red cloud spreading across one quadrant. It represented the Voraks' renewed offensive, a campaign of conquest that was swallowing worlds at an alarming rate. "They've adapted," General Hawthorne said grimly. "Our earlier tactics are no longer effective. The Voraks have incorporated our unpredictability into their strategies." Zarin, the Luminae ambassador, nodded solemnly. "Many of our allied worlds have fallen. The Voraks' hive mind has grown stronger with each assimilation. We are running out of options." Sarah felt the weight of expectation on her shoulders. She had become a symbol of hope, the Terran warrior who had led humanity to its first galactic victory. But now, faced with this overwhelming threat, she felt the bitter sting of helplessness. "There has to be something we haven't tried," she insisted, her mind racing. "What about the HS Horizon? Could we use its FTL capabilities to launch surprise attacks?" The general shook his head. "The Voraks have developed a way to detect FTL signatures. They can predict our arrivals now." A heavy silence fell over the room. It seemed that every advantage they had gained was being systematically neutralized by the relentless Voraks. Suddenly, an idea struck Sarah. It was outlandish, possibly insane, but in that moment of desperation, it felt like their only hope. What if we go in the opposite direction?" she said slowly, her eyes lighting up with the spark of inspiration. Everyone in the room turned to her, confusion evident on their faces. "Explain, Major," General Hawthorne prompted. Sarah moved to the holographic display, her hands moving rapidly as she spoke. "We've been trying to match the Vorax in technology, in strategy. But what if that's playing right into their hands? What if instead we embrace what makes us uniquely human?" She brought up images of Earth's history, of ancient battles and primitive weapons. Throughout our history, humans have often won against superior forces by using the environment, by turning to unconventional methods. What if we apply that thinking on a galactic scale? The room was silent as the implications of her words sank in. It was Zarin who spoke first, his multifaceted eyes shimmering with curiosity. "What exactly are you proposing, Sarah Chen?" A slight smile played on Sarah's lips. "I'm proposing we go low-tech, or rather, a fusion of low-tech and high-tech that the Vorax would never expect." Over the next few weeks, Project Prometheus was born. It was a daring, some would say foolhardy, plan to combine the most advanced alien technology with primitive human ingenuity. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, guided by Sarah's unconventional ideas. They created weapons that looked like ancient Earth artifacts, but packed the punch of Luminae energy weapons. Stealth systems were developed using principles of camouflage from Earth's wildlife. Tactics were devised that drew inspiration from guerrilla warfare and historical battles. The crowning achievement was the Trojan Horse, a fleet of ships that appeared, to all sensors, to be little more than space debris. In reality, they were packed with the most advanced weapons Earth and its allies could produce. As the plan came together, Sarah found herself working closely with a brilliant young engineer named Raj Patel. His ability to translate her wild ideas into functional technology was nothing short of miraculous. "You know, this plan of yours is crazy," Raj said one night as they put the finishing touches on the Trojan Horse prototype. "But I think that's exactly why it might work." Sarah nodded, a determined glint in her eye. "The Vorax expect us to think like them, to fight like them. They'll never see this coming." As Project Prometheus neared completion, news arrived that sent shockwaves through Earth and its allies. The Vorax had breached the defenses of Luminae Prime, the homeworld of humanity's closest allies. The time for preparation was over. They had to act now, or risk losing everything. The launch of Operation Wildfire was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As the Vorax fleet descended upon Luminae Prime, expecting to face a desperate last stand, they instead found nothing. The planet appeared deserted, devoid of life or technology. The Vorax, confused but triumphant, began their landing procedures. That's when all hell broke loose. From hidden bunkers deep beneath the planet's surface, human Luminae hybrid fighters erupted into the sky. They were painted with terrifying designs inspired by Earth's warrior cultures, a psychological warfare tactic that took the Vorax completely by surprise. In space, the debris field around the planet suddenly came to life. The Trojan Horse fleet, led by Sarah herself, sprang into action. Ships that looked like they were cobbled together from scrap metal unleashed weaponry beyond anything the Vorax had encountered. Sarah's voice crackled over the comm, steady and determined. "Remember your training. Fight smart. Fight unpredictably. Show them what humanity is made of." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations as one of the most unorthodox in galactic history. Human fighters executed maneuvers inspired by Earth's flying insects, darting and weaving in patterns that confused the Vorax targeting systems. Ground forces used tactics straight out of ancient Earth's guerrilla warfare handbooks, striking from hidden positions and disappearing before the Vorax could retaliate. Perhaps most surprisingly, some of the most effective weapons were the simplest. Railguns, using technology that was primitive by galactic standards, but enhanced with Luminae power sources, tore through Vorax ships with devastating efficiency. In space, Sarah led the Trojan Horse fleet in a series of maneuvers that looked chaotic, but were meticulously planned. Ships that appeared to be on the verge of falling apart suddenly revealed advanced energy weapons, catching the Vorax completely off guard. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the tide was turning. The Vorax, for all their advanced technology and hive mind coordination, couldn't adapt fast enough to the sheer unpredictability of the human-led forces. Hours turned into days as the conflict spread across the Luminae system. But gradually, inevitably, the Vorax began to retreat. Their losses mounted, and for the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced an enemy they couldn't understand or predict. Finally, after a week of intense fighting, the last Vorax ship fled the system. The silence that followed was deafening. As the dust settled and the extent of their victory became clear, a cheer went up across the human Luminae forces. They had done it. Against all odds, they had driven back the seemingly invincible Vorax. Sarah, exhausted but exhilarated, received the news in her battered command ship. She turned to Zarin, who had insisted on fighting alongside her, and saw her own mix of disbelief and joy mirrored in his alien features. "We did it," she breathed. "We actually did it." Zarin's skin shimmered with what Sarah now recognized as deep emotion. "No, Sarah Chen. You did it. Humanity did it. You have shown the galaxy a new way to fight, a new way to think. This victory belongs to Earth." As reports flooded in from across the sector, it became clear that this wasn't just a local victory. The Vorax, shaken by their defeat, were pulling back on multiple fronts. For the first time since they began their conquest, the seemingly unstoppable force had been stopped. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. The Vorax would regroup, would try to adapt. The war was far from over. As she looked out at the star-filled expanse of space, Sarah felt a mix of pride, determination, and humility. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage, had shown that their unique blend of ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination could overcome even the most daunting odds. The Terran warrior had led her people to victory, but the greatest challenges and opportunities still lay ahead. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. And Sarah Chen, along with the rest of humanity, was ready to show them a new dawn. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Luminae Prime, the conflict that had turned the tide of the Galactic War. Major Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood on the observation deck of Earth's first interstellar diplomatic station, New Horizon. The station orbited a neutral world at the heart of the galaxy, a symbol of the new era of cooperation that had emerged in the wake of the Vorax threat. Sarah's eyes swept over the diverse array of ships docked at the station. Vessels of all shapes and sizes, representing dozens of species from across the galaxy, floated serenely in the void. It was a far cry from the chaos of battle that had dominated her life for so long. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see Zarin, his iridescent skin shimmering in the starlight. The Luminae ambassador had become one of her closest friends and advisors over the years. "Sometimes I still can't believe how far we've come," Sarah admitted. 10 years ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now, look at us." Zarin's multifaceted eyes seemed to twinkle with amusement. "You humans never cease to amaze me. Your species has adapted to galactic society faster than any in recorded history." Their conversation was interrupted by a young ensign. "Admiral, the delegates are ready for you in the conference room." Sarah nodded, straightening her uniform. "Duty calls," she said to Zarin. "Wish me luck." The conference room was a marvel of diplomatic architecture, designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes. As Sarah entered, she was greeted by a cacophony of voices, some speaking in languages that would have been utterly alien to her just a few years ago. At the center of the room stood a holographic display of the galaxy, with the territory once controlled by the Vorax highlighted in red. It had shrunk considerably over the past 5 years, but it was still a significant threat. Sarah cleared her throat, and the room fell silent. All eyes, sensory organs, and other perceptual apparatuses turned to her. "Distinguished delegates," she began, her voice calm and authoritative. "We stand at a crossroads. The Vorax have been pushed back, but not defeated. Our intelligence suggests they are adapting, evolving. The next phase of this conflict will determine the fate of not just our individual species, but of free will across the galaxy. She gestured to the holographic display. But we have something the Vorax can never truly understand or replicate: diversity. Each of our species brings unique strengths, unique perspectives to this alliance, and none exemplify this more than humanity. There were murmurs of agreement around the room. Earth's unorthodox tactics and innovative technologies had turned the tide of the war, earning humanity a reputation as both saviors and wildcards in galactic politics. The Terran unconventional warfare doctrine has been successfully adopted by many of our allies, Sarah continued. But we can't rest on our laurels. The Vorax will be expecting these tactics now. We need to innovate once again. She took a deep breath, knowing her next words would be controversial. That's why I'm proposing Project Genesis. The room erupted in a mixture of excited chatter and concerned murmurs. Project Genesis was Sarah's brainchild. A daring plan to take the fight to the Vorax in a way they'd never expect. Instead of merely defending against the Vorax, we will attempt to communicate with them, Sarah explained. Not with their hive mind, but with the individual consciousnesses of the beings they've assimilated. We believe that with a combination of advanced psionics and human empathy, we can awaken these suppressed minds and potentially cause a revolt within the Vorax collective itself. The Chronicles ambassador, once skeptical of humanity, was the first to speak up. This plan, it's unprecedented, dangerous, and yet quintessentially human. You seek to turn the Vorax's greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Sarah nodded. It's risky, yes, but if we succeed, we could end this war without further bloodshed. We could even save countless beings from enslavement. Debate raged for hours. Some delegates thought the plan was too dangerous. Others saw it as their best hope. In the end, it was Zarin who tipped the scales. My friends, the Lumine ambassador said, his melodic voice cutting through the arguments. When we first encountered humanity, many of us doubted their readiness for the galactic stage. They have proven us wrong time and time again. Their unpredictability, their empathy, their sheer determination, these are the qualities that have brought us this far. I, for one, believe it's time we trusted in them once more. One by one, the delegates voiced their support. Project Genesis was approved. The next few months were a whirlwind of preparation. Sarah worked tirelessly with a diverse team of scientists, Shidans, and diplomats to refine the plan. The keystone of the project was a device that melded Lumine energy manipulation, Chronicles quantum entanglement, and human brainwave technology into something entirely new. As the day of the mission approached, Sarah found herself back on the observation deck of New Horizon, staring out at the stars. The weight of responsibility was almost overwhelming. If she was wrong, if this failed, it could mean the end of everything they'd fought for. Having second thoughts, Raj Patel, now her chief engineer, asked as he joined her. Sarah shook her head. Not second thoughts, just reflecting on how far we've come, on everything that's at stake. Raj nodded understanding. You know, when I first joined the UEDF, I never imagined I'd be helping to design a device that could potentially free minds from a galactic hive consciousness. It's like something out of a sci-fi novel. Sometimes I think our whole lives have become a sci-fi novel. Sarah chuckled. Then she grew serious. But that's the point, isn't it? We're writing a new chapter in galactic history. We're doing what everyone thought was impossible. The day of the mission dawned. Sarah stood on the bridge of the HSS Prometheus, Earth's most advanced ship, as it approached the edge of Vorax space. The device, which they'd nicknamed the Awakener, hummed with power. All systems are go, Admiral, Raj reported. The Awakener is ready. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would define not just her career, but potentially the fate of the galaxy. Activate the Awakener, she ordered. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, reports began to flood in. Vorax ships were stopping in their tracks. Communication channels erupted with a cacophony of voices, many using languages thought lost to time. It was working. The suppressed minds within the Vorax collective were awakening. What followed was the strangest battle in galactic history. A battle not of weapons, but of wills. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly, using the Awakener to support the rebelling minds within the Vorax collective. Days turned into weeks, and gradually, the tide turned. The Vorax hive mind, for the first time in its existence, faced rebellion from within. It was a battle it was never designed to fight. Finally, after a month of psychic conflict, the Vorax collective fractured. Billions of individual minds reasserted themselves, throwing off the shackles of the hive. As the dust settled, Sarah found herself at the center of a new challenge, helping to reintegrate countless formerly assimilated beings back into galactic society. It was a daunting task, but one that filled her with hope. In the years that followed, the galaxy entered a new golden age. The alliance forged in war now turned its efforts to peace and reconstruction. Earth, once an isolated world on the fringes of the galaxy, became a beacon of innovation and diplomacy. Sarah Chen, the Terran warrior, became a symbol of this new era. She had led humanity from its first steps into the galactic community to its position as a leader among the stars. As she stood once again on the observation deck of New Horizon, watching ships from across the galaxy come and go, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had been a path fraught with danger, filled with impossible odds and unimaginable challenges. But through it all, humanity had proven that their greatest strengths lay not in technology or firepower, but in their creativity, their adaptability, and their indomitable spirit. They had shown the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the ability to think differently, to empathize, to never give up even when all seems lost. As the stars twinkled in the vast expanse of space, Sarah Chen smiled. The Terran warrior had fought her battles, had led her people to victory against impossible odds. Now, it was time for a new chapter, not just for her, but for all of humanity. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was ready to explore it all, to learn, to grow, and to continue surprising everyone, including themselves. The adventure, it seemed, was just beginning.